Welcome to Tech Evolved. If you enjoy this content, then please like and subscribe to the channel. Also, consider becoming part of the Discord community. Link in the description. With that said, let's get back to the video.
Before we get started on this video today, I just want to give a special thank you to Snoopy Tom for buying me the game. I highly appreciate the fact that you bought it me for my birthday, and I also value our friendship, my dude. Well, as long as you keep on buying me things. Nah, I'm only joking. Out of all the games that we bought for each other, this is probably the best one, just because the Serious Sam series holds a special place in my heart, because the First Encounter along with Counter-Strike is one of the first FPS games that I actually played. Interestingly enough as well, I've already looked at 2 out of the 4 games available in the series. I started with the First Encounter in 2020, and then later down the line when this game was actually announced, I looked at Serious Sam 3. The biggest problem that I had with Serious Sam 3 was that, well, it just seemed to be like Serious Sam 1 and 2, but just with a graphical uplift. Basically just like the original games with a facelift, they didn't really do much to change the formula of Serious Sam. This kind of feels like once you've played one of them, you've played them all. And I'm not saying that the gameplay or the formula is a bad thing. No, quite the opposite. I really like the over-the-top FPS elements mixed in with the slight puzzle elements. But it did feel like the series needed some kind of intervention, some new elements thrown into the mix in order to keep it fresh. When we got wind of Serious Sam 4 being somewhat open world and having open world elements, I thought, yes, this is the spin that we need. This is going to be a game changer. This is going to make Serious Sam 4 just seriously awesome. So when it first came out in September of 2020, I deliberately stayed as far away from any review videos or any footage on this game whatsoever. I didn't even want to check the Steam store page, so this video doubles up as 100% blind first impression, as well as my honest thoughts, feelings and opinions. Literally the first thing that happens in-game when you go into Serious Sam 4 is that you get thrown into a frickin' war zone, and Sam gets reacquainted with his well-beloved minigun. I was actually blown away by how many enemies are on screen. It absolutely looks mental, which is quite the coincidence because the main antagonist that you're fighting against is actually called Mental as well. I am not making that up. I think this sets the stage perfectly for the over-the-top gameplay that's about to come your way, and also the one-liners, because Sam delivers one and then gets hit over the head by an alien overlord, as you do. And this is where the game actually starts. As you can tell, I am way too into this because, well, it's been 2.5 minutes already, and we've only just talked about the intro. Okay, so when the gameplay did start and I played through the first 2 chapters, it did in fact actually make me a little bit nervous about the game. As I mentioned previously, the formula of Serious Sam was still there. This is the more linear structure, with you moving to a bigger arena at the end of a chapter in order to take down a massive horde of enemies. I would like to point out, however, the gameplay was absolutely solid within these chapters. You're actually introduced to new concepts within the gameplay, such as a skill tree and new equipment, as well as customizing the old guns that we all know and love. It's also at this point in the game where you're getting introduced to new enemy types. You're getting introduced to the enemies if you've never played the game before, and also you're learning about your allies within this battle and getting introduced to the story. In true Serious Sam fashion, you've also got a log that you can go back to, so if you've missed anything during the gameplay, you can go back and read about the enemies, you can go back and read about the equipment. It's actually very useful. The more I progressed through the game in these 2 chapters, the more my worries started to be eased a little bit more. This is because of the fantastic upgrade that they've done with the story elements within Serious Sam. This time around it actually feels like a compelling story. Everyone you're introduced to literally has a purpose within the story, literally has a payoff to them. This is actually fantastic storytelling, especially when it comes to a game like this, which is more centered around craziness and over-the-top gameplay. I actually found myself getting invested into characters. Yes, an absolute foreign concept to me when it comes to a Serious Sam game. It almost knocked me over and I almost lost a shoe. It was at this point where I thought, well, we're not really getting an open world, although the level design is fantastic. The environment feels a lot more open and a lot more realistic than Serious Sam 3. The new models, the new enemy types, the new concepts involved are all in fact really impressive. I am really content actually with this experience. If it doesn't get any better than this is still a really freaking good game. And then I fight against a giant alien lobster with some of the funniest one-lines in the game, I reckon. And then the game KOs me for a second time when I get to France. This is where the game starts to really open up and have some open world elements. You even get to drive vehicles like, well, a quad, a motorbike, and well this, just have a look at this. Well, now see, if Farm Simulator games was like this, I'll be playing a lot more of them. In this game you also meet an informant called Charlie, who might end up bugging out and start dancing for you. And I think that's definitely everything that I want to point out, because honestly, there are so many good moments that I don't want to spoil for you if you are considering picking up this game. So if you haven't already guessed the main premise of the game, it's actually the fight for Earth. The new abilities and equipment during the gameplay is actually really awesome. The equipment ranges from stuff like health shots, black hole grenades, super speed serum, even slow motion and more, and the new skill tree as well as skill point system adds extra abilities like dual wielding, which if you get the advanced dual wielding then you can actually have 2 different types of weapons dual wielded, which is fantastic, even the heavy ones. So even guns that are meant to be handled with 2 hands, you can dual wield them, so you can have 2 miniguns, by the way, or you can have like a grenade launcher and a minigun. The combinations are actually ludicrous. There isn't a ton of things within this skill tree, but everything that is in the skill tree is useful. Other awesome things that I think I should point out about Serious Sam 4 is that you can actually play it in first person, which is the usual way to play Serious Sam, by the way, but the game also gives you the option to mix it up and play it in third person. In the first person perspective you feel more immersed in the battles, whilst in the third person perspective you can kind of see attacks coming, especially from the enemies that can attack you from behind. Difficulty wise the game starts off very simple, very actually easy I would say, but then significantly starts to ramp up, and it does this by the sheer number of enemies that it does throw at you, especially with all the various types of enemies, so you have to watch out for different attack patterns. This is something that has been the learning curve of Serious Sam for a long time. Movement has been very important, and it's great to see that that learning curve has not been lost, and it's even more awesome now to see that they can put more enemies on screen, and the fact that they can do it at a much larger scale. I was originally playing in hard difficulty, however, even for me who has played a lot of Serious Sam First Encounter, I actually found that the game was handing my ass to me. This was on certain levels, especially the ones with snipers, so I eventually ended up on normal difficulty. However, there were some levels later on that I just breezed through because of it. It's definitely weird, some chapters feel a lot harder than others. An actual negative that I do want to point out about this game as well, guys, is although we do have co-op and survival, there is no classic multiplayer. This honestly broke my heart when I realized this. I was so looking forward to playing multiplayer in like arena style, like a team-based deathmatch or something like that. Being an indie game, I know why the devs have done that, to save on resources, because man, the single player experience is quite long and actually does have a lot of replayability thanks to its co-op feature, but I was heartbroken because I wanted to jump into like the multiplayer when it was still relatively new and still has a lot of population and people invested in it, because I totally missed out when it came to Serious Sam 3 and the classic multiplayer experience. Well, I did get a chance to play the multiplayer, it just wasn't peak and vibrant at the time, there wasn't loads of servers populated. Playing a game at its peak in terms of multiplayer is something that I really do enjoy. It's definitely a shame that we can't get that with Serious Sam 4. Optimization and performance, the game seemed to run perfectly fine with the recommended specs. Although my card isn't listed, I used a 980 Ti, and the game footage that you have been watching has been in Ultra. It might not be graphically the most impressive game that you've seen, however visually I think this looks really decent. The last outstanding thing that I think we should talk about is definitely the audio design. As you know, something that Serious Sam does really well, it's always been that you've heard the enemy before you see them, like with the example that I give in my first encounter video, in which still hearing the kamikazes running at me still terrifies me. That is back in full force with other enemy types too. It's an awesome thing to have audio cues to know what type of gun you need to pull out, especially if your reaction time is going to save you. But let me just tell you, the audio track and the official soundtrack to this game, man, it's just so good. I actually found myself staying in battles for longer and not actually finishing off the enemies, just to listen to some of the soundtracks, man. I will probably use the official music actually in this video. Some of the guitar sections are actually just gorgeous. I know a lot of people say about the Doom soundtrack, but come on, this is just as good. And when I say just as good, I mean just as good but in a different way. Like the music in this game changes to fit the environment, while Doom music I would say complements the player's aggression. And well, sometimes movement style as well. You can almost play like a rhythm game sometimes. But this is not about Doom, this is about Serious Sam 4. With that said, let's wrap it up here. There's a lot to explore within Serious Sam 4. Man, I am so happy with this game. I actually recommend it 100%. I really should have just bought it when it was new, to be honest, and did the review then. But like I said, I was a little bit scared that they wouldn't reinvent it, that they wouldn't bring new elements to the game, but man, they have done that and done it in a way that has just been so impressive. They absolutely did the fans of the series justice with this game. They really did. I can already estimate that I'm going to be putting way over 100 hours into this game. I will be continuing to play it. If anyone has this game too and wants to play co-op, let me know on my Discord. Speaking of which, if you're not a member of our Discord server, then please join today. If you liked today's video, then please smash the like button for me. Really helps out. And if you're new and got all the way to this point in the video, then that means you should probably definitely subscribe. I aim to do a review once a week. Some games are an absolute blowout like this one where I have hardly anything bad to say about them, while other times they can be games like COD. Was that a bit evil? I think that was a bit evil. Sorry if you like COD. It's just so easy to target nowadays. Anyway, with that said, I appreciate all the support. Thank you again to Snoopy Tom for buying me the game. Anyway, with that said, I have just been an idiot with an opinion, and I'll see you in the next video.